Justice! 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 Justice!
Not who I was expecting, but awesome choice. Esmeralda has captivated audiences for hundreds of years, beginning with her original portrayal in Victor Hugo's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. She was so popular, in fact, early adaptations of the novel to opera and ballet were actually just called La Esmeralda. Yeah, forget about Quasimodo, people loved Esmeralda, and I do agree she is fascinating. The more I found out about Esmeralda's past, parents, and who she was created to be, the more interesting and complex she became. Hello, I'm Isaac from What's So Videos, where we discuss fun topics for fun people. Today, I'm going to explain Esmeralda's full story. And just a heads up before we get too far into the video, the site I have my merchandise through is having huge sales site-wide, meaning right now you can get any of the What's So Video shirts, like this one, or any of the other Disney shirts on my page for 30% off. By purchasing this merchandise, you know you can show off your love of spreading Disney magic, and you'll be supporting the channel, so make sure to check out this limited time deal. Although there have been many different versions of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, I'm mainly going to focus on two: Victor Hugo's novel and Disney's feature-length animated film. In Victor Hugo's original tale, Esmeralda was not actually born a gypsy, as she was suggested to be in Disney's story. Instead, she was the daughter of a French woman whose birth name was actually Agnes. As a baby, the Romany people came to Agnes's home and switched her with their infant Quasimodo and decided to give the child they would raise the name Esmeralda. This name was given to the girl for it translates in both Spanish and Portuguese to emerald and referred to the emerald amulet she wore around her neck. I mean, if she took it off, it really wouldn't make sense, but whatever. Disney's backstory on Esmeralda differs from her first telling and possesses some inconsistencies amongst the works. In the book Esmeralda's Lucky Charm, it stated that Esmeralda and her goat Jolly moved to Paris when she was an adult and met Clopin, the leader of the Gypsies, as an adult. But in Once Upon a Princess Volume 1, it's implied that Clopin was actually Esmeralda's maternal uncle, so when her parents passed away, he adopted and raised her. In this telling, Jolly was given to Esmeralda as a birthday present by Clopin to ease the loss of her parents. I mean, a goat is no parents, but at least Jolly was a cool goat? Obviously, Esmeralda couldn't have met Clopin as an adult and have been raised by him, so it's up to you to decide which version you prefer, but in my opinion, I think it makes more sense for her to be raised in the gypsy culture, learning the dances, tricks, and rising as a leader of her people, which I will focus on more later, and this makes sense because it is more similar to Hugo's version. In addition to her parents changing in the Disney version, the origin of her name is also changed. Disney's Esmeralda has no emerald necklace, so instead of black eyes like Hugo's Esmeralda, she possesses green eyes, suggesting this provides meaning to her name. Esmeralda's eyes also have another purpose though. Green eyes were often considered to be a sign of either magic, evil, and/or witchcraft in medieval societies, which plays into people's initial mistrust of her and likely the reason many of Disney's earlier villains had these colored eyes. Regardless of the stories you examine though, Esmeralda grew up to be a gypsy dancer living within the court of miracles and being oppressed by the tyranny of Paris. But her age and personality differs a bit during the events of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. At the start of the novel, Esmeralda was only about 16 years old, while Disney's version appears to be in her early 20s. Furthermore, Hugo's Esmeralda is innocent, naive, and sometimes even timid, but still strong. In one of her first scenes, she's saving the life of poet Pierre Gringore out of sheer compassion and is even seen wielding a dagger. Disney's Esmeralda, on the other hand, is even more confident, outspoken, fearless, and completely free-spirited, which is especially seen at the Festival of Fools.
Oh, you mean the Feast of Fools?
You mean the Feast of Fools?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, of course! The fun yearly festival that, like many modern festivals, doesn't turn out too well for everyone. Like one time, my last girlfriend puked on this swinging ride right next to my friend Ben, but that pales in comparison to what goes wrong at the Festival of Fools for Quasimodo. After the embarrassment and harassment of the deformed man Quasimodo, Esmeralda is the sole individual in all of France to openly disgrace the behavior of the citizens, revealing her ultimately kind, loving, selfless soul. She treated Quasimodo as a person who deserved kindness, gentleness, and patience.
Don't be afraid. I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen.
And she also is the only person to rebel against Judge Claude Frollo's judgments.
Mistreat this poor boy the same way you mistreat my people. You speak of justice, yet you are cruel to those most in need of your help.
Silence!
Justice!
Esmeralda proves to us she is ready to act as a leader and stand on her own if it means she is fighting for the rights of her people. For her disobedience to Frollo's commands, guards are sent after her, but she proves herself to be capable and cunning by escaping to Notre Dame and claiming sanctuary. But the captain of the guards, Phoebus, notices her inside, so he follows her and they have their first encounter, which will eventually lead to them falling in love in the Disney version. In the original tale though, Phoebus did lust for her affection, but he was unwilling to love her for he was engaged to a wealthy woman named Fleur de Lis. Yeah, that was a weird situation in the book I would not want to be involved in. While Phoebus spoke to Esmeralda, Minister Frollo then entered the cathedral as well, hoping to arrest the girl, but instead he also begins to lust for her.
What are you doing?
I was just imagining a rope around that beautiful neck.
I know what you were imagining.
Now trapped within the cathedral, she looked to God and pled for her people's freedom, which again shows all she wants is to benefit the gypsies. And her singing pulls Quasimodo to her. Quasi and Esmeralda meet again and bond together over how they are viewed by the Paris society. They are in fact very similar because their looks define how people think of them. While Quasimodo is thought of as a monster because of his deformities, Esmeralda's beauty and gypsy heritage leads others to classify her as evil and a witch. The caring disposition Esmeralda shows to Quasimodo is interpreted by Quasi to be love, so he frees her from the cathedral, but she wouldn't be gone for long. While trekking back to the Court of Miracles, she finds the kind Captain Phoebus injured from a murder attempt by Frollo for Phoebus's rescue of a gypsy family. To save the man she was falling in love with, Esmeralda brings Phoebus to Quasimodo to be resuscitated. Clear. Now that Phoebus was saved, Esmeralda went to the Court of Miracles with Quasimodo and Phoebus close behind her to warn her of Frollo's impending attack on the gypsies. Frollo's forces come in full force, with Esmeralda being the first to be scheduled for execution. In the Victor Hugo story, Esmeralda is also sentenced to death, but under different circumstances. Phoebus was also attempted to be killed by Frollo earlier in the story, but for different reasons. After Frollo finds Phoebus kissing Esmeralda, he stabs Phoebus and retreats to his home, which results in Esmeralda being accused of murder and being tortured, imprisoned, and sentenced to death. At the beginning of Hugo's Hunchback of Notre Dame, Esmeralda is able to live her life on her own terms, but she becomes more and more powerless until she's completely in Frollo's control. Well, almost. In all versions of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, Frollo's lust had grown into madness. He craved her with every bone in his body, and he desired her to be with him or to not exist. Thus, he provided Esmeralda with an ultimatum.
Time has come, Gypsy. You stand upon the brink of the abyss. Yet even now it is not too late. Choose me or the fire.
But Esmeralda was not willing to sacrifice her freedom, and even when she was seconds away from death, she remained fiercely defiant, knowing her worth and refusing to degrade herself by surrendering to Frollo's enslavement.
The gypsy Esmeralda has refused to recant.
But Quasimodo wouldn't stand for his first true friend to be destroyed, so he rescues Esmeralda from the fire, and together with Phoebus, they liberate the city from Frollo's tyranny. In the end of Disney's story, and during its sequel, we learn Esmeralda ends up falling for, marrying, and having a child named Zephyr with Phoebus. but remains a close friend and guiding presence for Quasimodo. But why didn't she fall in love with Quasi? As a Disney kid, I always felt used to the main man ending up with the main woman. So what differed here? Well, I don't think it was based purely on Quasimodo's looks. See, Frollo constantly viewed Esmeralda as a purely evil, manipulative seductress, while Quasimodo instead viewed her as a pure, angelic being. Neither one of these men could see her as just a person. Phoebus, on the other hand, noticed her fiery, rebellious spirit and her capacity for kindness. Quasimodo was deformed, but I think it was really his lack of maturity and emotional intelligence which held him back. But no worries, he would find love too. Although Esmeralda is free to live out her days with Phoebus in the Disney story, Hugo's version doesn't end as well for her. Quasimodo did save Esmeralda's life at one point, but at the climax of the story, her rejection of Frollo results in her being hung. Esmeralda grew up a dedicated gypsy focused on standing up for what is right for her people. She was strong and independent in the face of tyranny and oppression, emotionally intelligent with love on the horizon, and was empathetic when no one else was. Although her fate differs depending on the version you examine, Esmeralda was a powerful woman who was willing to act on what was just. If you enjoyed discussing Esmeralda, then click that like button, and if you are interested in staying up to date with more magical Hunchback videos, then click that subscribe button and click that bell icon to be notified when I post, because YouTube has been really weird lately. So now it's time for the question of the day, sponsored by my patrons. Through my research, I found Esmeralda was a Disney princess until 2004. Yeah, I know, I never knew. So my question is, do you think Esmeralda should be a Disney princess? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, along with any other ideas you have for future Discovering Disney episodes. If you'd like to see more Watso videos, then check out some awesome pics over here. Make sure to go check out those deals on the Watso merch. And as always, thanks for watching and have a magical day.